you are looking to place trades or you're looking to make maybe even daily moves, it often doesn't hurt to wait a little bit, like 15 to 30 minutes, especially if you're trading something like options, just to let things settle a little bit because you can have these massive moves in the beginning that can be really, really difficult to predict. So it never hurts to do that. Apple is also just about flat. Tesla's up a little bit over 1% already. And it looks like tech is kind of all moving in that direction because the ARKK fund is up about 0.5%. Decent day so far for the gambling stocks and the semiconductor stocks as well. So that's kind of like my just initial over the bat thoughts. I'm gonna kind of roll through our speakers, and then as we have a little bit more time come in and we have a little bit more data, we can pick into some individual names. So I know that there's several that people want us to chart, whether that's PLTR or SoFi or Nvidia or Firm, all these different ones. So we will get to them. We are just going to kind of give them a couple minutes. But Ben, I would love to go to you first, to get your initial thoughts on how this market is kind of taken off this morning, and then based on yesterday's action, if there were any that were on your watch list going into today.
Sure. So I think it sets us up for follow through day. We talked about that last week, that when we see a bottom or a potential bottom and get a rally, we start to look for that follow through day 4 or later. I think today we're day 5. So we're kind of in that window where we look for a follow through day. And what that is we're looking for an up day, green day. The higher the better, but we're looking for that on bigger volume than yesterday. Now, that doesn't guarantee us anything going forward, but no major rally starts without one. So we're in that timing band and that window for that to happen. And because yesterday was a holiday and the way it kind of set up and the structure of it, it sets us up for a very easy comparison as far as volume today versus yesterday, because yesterday's holiday volume was quite light. So that's out there. Outside of that, of course, got to watch energy. And it's interesting because just an hour ago, energy was bright red, and now it's flipped completely and back to green. That's crude that I'm referring to. And then I'm also keeping an eye, obviously, on rates. The bond market was closed yesterday, so we didn't have to worry about rates at all yesterday, down a little bit this morning. So that helps tech. And I think that's why you're seeing a good start for tech. And then watching the dollar, we're coming into an area of potential resistance for the dollar. So we'll be watching that carefully. If we go back all the way to the COVID highs, when we attach an anchored VWAP to that level, we're starting to approach that area. So looking for resistance there. If the dollar does roll over, I think that only helps equities and going forward. As far as individual names, let's see. I know I had Matterport was one that I was watching. I guess the CEO was on CNBC last night. And that's one that is in that VWAP pinch that you hear me talk about. And Brian Shannon from Alpha Trends did an amazing job at conference regarding that. We've got a little volume shelf there right at around the $20 mark. It's trying to push through, and that's MTTR, Matterport. So I like the action that's going on there. If that can turn the corner there, start climbing back up the right side, I think we can get back up towards those highs above $23. Yesterday, alternative energy, Sedge and First Solar, those solar stocks were getting a bid yesterday. And so keeping an eye on those today, too, to see if they have any upside continuation and follow through. Sedge is one that's coming through a descending trend line right now. And I think that one has a shot to get back towards those highs above 300. What else is on my radar? Oh, UPST flagging up high. We're right there just above the 10-20 moving average. It's consolidated sideways in kind of a flag pattern. You've got a little descending trend line right there. It's moving sideways the last few sessions. I think if that comes out of there too, that's another one that has a shot being a leader and putting in new highs. So watching that one as well.
Definitely keeping my eye on Upstart as well. And so bringing it back real quick to, I think you were talking about SPY there for a second, right?
Spy? Okay.
Um, with the overall market.
Yep.
So, you mentioned Brian Shannon, who we had the pleasure of meeting and having dinner with this weekend. So for anyone who's unfamiliar, one of the things that Brian spoke about at FinTwit conference this weekend was anchored volume weighted average price, which is the anchored VWAP. It's a little bit different. If some of you are familiar with moving averages, it's I think looked at as a little bit more of an accurate moving average. It's looking at kind of where the money is. So I know some people only trade with them. So if you were looking at SPY real quick and you were using, VWAP on it, where would you currently anchor your VWAP on the SPY chart?
So you've got to go back to the recent low. What was that? 6 sessions ago, coming off where, if we're looking at the SPY, that 426.36 low. So you're anchoring from there, and that anchored VWAP from there is rising and prices above it. So from that low, buyers are still in control. But then from the upside, you've got to go to the high where you're at 454.05, anchor another one from there. That anchored VWAP is declining. So it's a combination of price and time. So going back from the August high, uh, sellers would still be considered in control, but going from off the recent bottom, the buyers are in control. So we call that the pinch, and that's the term that Brian Shannon came up with, the VWAP pinch, where price is actually finding resistance from the anchored VWAP off of the high, but it happens to be finding support or trading between the anchored VWAP from off of the low. So what tends to happen is price consolidates between those two anchored VWAPs, and then eventually it comes out of there. If the buyers regain control, comes out of there to the upside, turns that anchored VWAP back up. Whereas if the sellers remain in control, it breaks to the downside below the anchored VWAP that's rising, and then rolls back over, and then you know that the sellers are in control. So you're kind of using that to help guide.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Ben.
Sure.
Richard, I'd love to bring you into this. Get your thoughts. I know that you've been probably up for several hours scanning through the market. So interested to see what you're looking at.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on again. It's always fun and always great to hear from Ben as well. He's just so knowledgeable and somebody who I've learned a ton from. Um, in terms of what I'm watching, a lot of the same stuff that Ben is, as well as a few names like Sofi. So, what's interesting about Sofi is if you go to a daily chart and look at the volume yesterday, it was the highest in the past 250 days. And it basically traded 65 million shares, up about 13.45%. But normal retail traders can't contribute to 65 million shares. So, what we look for at Traderline is this kind of leadership characteristic where this massive volume comes in, and often that could be a turning point in a stock's trend. So, what I'm watching for is some type of consolidation, some type of setup now where we can basically start a move upwards. And we saw this same characteristic with apps a few weeks ago. If you take a look at that chart, it had basically in addition to an index and then also massive volume just a few days later than that. And now it's kind of changed character and started to move up the right hand side of the base. So both SoFi and apps are ones I'm watching. Apps I have a position in. And yeah, stuff's acting well. Good response from the growth stocks. I was expecting a gap down looking at the futures last night, but it seems like we've recovered. But in general, going back to the general market, my mindset is still definitely a little bit cautious. I think we're in pullback mode. We haven't had that fall through day that we look for. And Yeah, I think we just could need more time. The closes the past few days have not been great, meaning that we're closing well below where we opened, which doesn't really give me a lot of confidence about the strength of the market and the conviction of the buyers. But in general, there are some select names working. I've also been trading a firm, which I think if the market really firms up here, to use a nice pun there, I think this will be a leader going forward. If you take a look at that chart and bring that up, you can see that it's right basically at all-time highs when the market is in a correction. and the relative strength line has been in a super strong uptrend going back the past few months now, and it's had those obviously massive gap ups on volume. Once again, a leadership characteristic that I really key in on, and and that's simply because, and kind of the strategy behind that is when there's this massive buying where it's the highest volume in over a year with a great closing range, meaning we close right at the highs. That suggests that institutions, something has changed about the stock and how institutions are looking at stock to make them go out and buy that amount of shares. And because these institutions have to build into companies over the course of weeks and months, I'm looking for a prevailing trend after that initial buying that I can basically ride as a trend follower and swing trader. So yeah, that's kind of the strategy behind it, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm focused on today.
That was a really good explanation there of why something can be at all-time highs, but you would still be comfortable purchasing it. Even, something that's a little bit jolting all over the place like AFRM, but understanding that they don't just come in and just buy once, right? If you look at like Kathy Woods, right, she's been buying what PLTR every day for how long? Um, so a lot of them, I think, mimic that same style. And then you're correct. Obviously, this volume is insane right now, especially over the last four sessions. And although it looks a little bit red in the last session, we do have a peaking into a green candle today. Are there any other indicators that you're looking at on AFRM?
Yeah, so yeah, great point there. So I actually make almost all my buys right near all-time highs. I like to trade where there's no overhead supply, nobody waiting to sell, and really that's the best highest probability setup for me. In terms of indicators, the relative strength line, which basically plots the price of the stock divided by the price of the S&P 500, that's basically a ratio. And if that line is increasing, basically it's telling me that a stock is outperforming the market. But in terms of other indicators, I really like the 21 EMA. And a few sessions ago, right before that, a firm had that huge candle where a lot of positive news came out. It was right at the 21 EMA. So I love buying a stock that has already shown outperformance previously, and a firm had with those huge gap ups, and then it pulls back on lighter volume into that moving average, the 21 EMA. And you can use the 21, you can use the 23. They're going to be very similar. But a stock that does that and then presents a good buying opportunity, a buy on strength, and that was actually an inside day and up on that candle, which that day was the 6th. That's kind of my go-to setup, and it's a great way to manage risk. You manage risk right at the 21 EMA, the low of the day, and yeah, that's kind of my go-to.
Did you also, I'm pretty certain you dove into some of the fundamentals here as well, right?
Yeah, obviously it's the buy now, pay later trend. Sales growth has been really strong. We've seen, I believe, Fidelity Country Fund, which is a really fantastic institutional fund, which I follow, taking up a position. So the trend, everything's kind of coming together with this one. We've got the fundamentals, the price action, and that's usually what I found to be the best possible trades. Tesla last year is an example. Everything's coming together at once, and all that really I think needs to happen here is the market to firm up and really kind of relieve the pressure on this stock. And one thing you do have to keep in note is that a handle would be very, very constructive here because we've already come quite far off the 21 EMA. I would like to see it consolidate, just kind of go sideways when the market's kind of trying to firm up and let that moving average catch up to price. And then I'll be watching very carefully for an entry as it tries to flag out.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Richard.
Sure.
I'm going to keep going around, but I'm sure we'll come back to I think we just broke 500 people that are tuning in and listening. I hope you all having a great morning or whatever time it is by you. If you're listening to these speakers, enjoying this type of stuff, we do this every single Monday, and these guys are regular. So I recommend just popping into their profiles, checking them out, giving them a follow. Ben just hit 100,000 this weekend. Richard's cruising up there in the 50,000s, and we all actually had to have dinner this weekend, which was cool down in Florida. And then, of course, Gerg, who I'm going to go to in just a second. So I highly recommend, again, just popping in and give him a follow. It's 100% worth it. I follow all the ones up here. Gerg, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, what's up? So for now, I'm watching MGM. So pre-market, they got 4 price upgrades, and the chart looks same as so far from yesterday. So I think MGM might run another 10% for the day. So I just bought almost 544 calls, that expire 19th November. And
Why
the
did you pick that
floor,
specific call?
I was tracking the volume, right? So this particular call almost had 10 million buys last week, and the price didn't move last week. So
What
people were
what
loading
what
up.
strike was that again? You said 45?
44, yeah, they're in the money
44.
already. But I bought them at open, and they were in the money. So MGM 44 strike and 19th November expiry.
And that was that looks like those have run up about 66% today.
Yeah,
So
and I do
uh
have 500 of them. Just a disclaimer. So
the MGM chart actually looks pretty nice. Might get Ben and Richard's thoughts on this also. And Evan, if you have any, but they just popped right up above. I mean, that's an all-time high, right? Or for a while
no,
now.
I think ultimate 50 plus. I think even the 52-week high is 50 plus. Yeah, no, my bad. Yeah, it's 47.50. Just broke that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's cruising. It's above, way above that 200 day, and just kind of broke through all the volume is. And then MGM is this, they why did they get the upgrades?
I didn't even look at that. I just read the headline on my terminal. I think Credit Suisse, Goldman Sachs, all of them upgraded that in the morning. That's why I piled in the calls. I was tracking the volume for last week. What was the most popular car? Above 1 million. And the MGM 44 call, 19 November was the most popular one. And the open interest almost tripled last week. So, on no news.
Pretty interesting to see that. Ben, Richard, any thoughts on this, or Evan?
I know that group has been really strong because it's not just MGM. If you look at RRR, Red Rock Resorts, that one's into new highs today. Caesar is another one, CZR. There's a smaller one, Full House Resorts, FLL, building out a nice little handle. It's got a cup pattern. That one's about $12. This whole group, and even the technology behind the gaming, like if you go to IGT, that's another one into new highs. So, a lot of times we focus on the individual stock like MGM, but there's even more strength behind it when the whole group is running. All of the resorts, all of the gaming stocks, all of the technology behind those gaming stocks. Yeah, they're all running very strong.
Good,
You know,
good to see the. Yeah, there you go, Evan.
with this one, I keep going back to the deal for whoever to buy Entain or the DraftKings to buy the joint venture between MGM Resorts and Entain. It's MGM Bet. And the valuation, I don't know exactly where it's at now. I feel like it's been a week or two, and the valuation was $22.5 billion. And I keep coming back to that number to look at where these companies are going in private or not in private, in secondary sales for acquisitions. And then I look at the valuations of these companies. I don't 100%. I know it was a joint venture. I don't know if it was a 50-50 joint venture and MGM owns half of it. But, it's at a $22.5 billion market cap. So, they just got an offer on a part of their business for whatever half of that. So I just kind of see these valuations. I keep going back to that deal, and it's definitely different when you are acquiring a company. You have to pay a premium. But I keep going back to that, like for Penn and for all these other companies. It just feels like this sector has more room to run, at least in this current state with how the valuations are going.
It's a good time also of the season. I think a lot of betting coming in right now on the NFL season. You have the pickup into the MLB playoffs. I think basketball just started their preseason, so other stuff. So you do get kind of a major overlap of the three major sports, and then I guess I'm not sure exactly when hockey starts, but it seems to be a good time for money flowing in. Cool, interesting. Gerg, anything else on your watch list? I guess I actually wanted to touch on everyone's thoughts on SoFi. So maybe do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I look so far long term. I was short some puts at 15 strike, but I covered them yesterday. But if so far goes down more and today or tomorrow, I will short some more puts 15 strike. So I want to buy so far $15 or under. And the December puts, the premium is almost $1. So if you short the 15 puts, and you get exercise. Your cost base is $14, and that's almost the lowest since SoFi has gone after the merger. But I'm waiting for the bank charter. If you look at the timeline, it is almost a year. So it should be coming out sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm waiting for that to add. And
If
so
you
far, it does have
yeah,
earnings next month too.
if you wanted to get in right on SoFi at that under 15 level, what's your methodology behind buying,
So,
puts down to that level
yeah,
versus
I
selling
I
puts?
rather wait and get paid to wait. So let's see if I want to buy SoFi at $15, right? I will go and look at strikes like puts, right? Let's see a look at the member puts. The strike might be $16 and the premium might be $1. So I get paid $1 upfront, and if it goes below 15, I have to buy it at $16 before the expiry. So I got dollar paid before and I buy them at 16. So my cost basis is $15 technically. So
Got it.
if it doesn't go, I collect all the premium for free. So like usually I do this with Palantir. When Palantir goes to 22, 23, I go a short a ton of 2023 ports, collect the premium, and buy shares with the premium. So like my upfront cost for the trade is zero, and if it goes up, I make money on that too, and I make money on the commons too. So like I with zero capital, I sell puts, collect the premium, and finance my commons to them. And even with
Got it.
earnings, right? So like so far, my plan is to buy the commons, sell covered calls, and use the covered calls, the premium, to buy puts as an hedge for free.
So you're selling the puts, right? Down to 15. That's the premium that you're
No, no, no,
collecting?
no, no. For yeah, for right now I'm selling, but for earnings I will be long the puts, but I will sell covered calls, and I will use that premium to buy the puts for free as an hedge.
Got it. Ben, Richard, any thoughts on SoFi?
I would completely agree with what Richard was saying earlier with that huge volume yesterday. You have institutional footprints all over this now. And I think there's always smarter money out there kind of betting on the charter within, a reasonable amount of time because there was a tremendous amount of call flow into this over the last couple weeks too. And so that big move yesterday doesn't really come as a surprise because you kind of saw those bets starting to come in with the call flow. So now with that type of volume too, that's not the retail crowd that's coming in there. That's the highest volume you've seen in the name. So looks good to me for continuation. And like I said, like Richard was saying, when you see that type of volume, yeah, you want to pay attention.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense to me. I'm continuing to keep an eye on SoFi as well. I'm
Yeah,
not.
sorry to interrupt, but the MGM calls I mentioned are up 80% now. So if anyone got, then congrats.
Yeah, I actually did get in. Mine are up about 10%.
Oh, congrats.
Um, Thanks. Yeah, I'm just holding a small position there, but I really do like to trade live on these spaces. I think it's one of my favorite things to do is just can kind of take in information and then just, decipher it and find opportunities, move in and out of them. I might hold it as a swing. We'll see, especially with all those price upgrades. But just continuing to follow it. Okay, so we're coming up to 9:55. So I'm just gonna take a look real quick at the FinViz scanner. Just pulling up the map, and then Evan, I also wanted to, get you back into the thick of things if there was stuff that you wanted to add from any earnings or other perspective. But real quick, I'm looking at the consumer. Let's see, auto manufacturers. So Tesla's doing pretty good. Nike's doing pretty good. Biotech, I know Gerg's favorite, Moderna, up pretty nicely. And then also Nvidia, Salesforce. Overall, looking kind of mixed, I would say. From my perspective, the WSJ is saying that right now the S&P is down, is flat. It's like up 0.003. And it does look flat. I mean, if you just look at this, it's just across. You have Facebook, Google, Apple slightly down, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Tesla, all up a bit. Evan, what's on your radar?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the heat map as well. I'm actually on the screener. A couple names we've actually talked about are some of the best performing stocks so far today. Gerg was talking about MGM. It's the fourth best performing stock. This is 15 minutes delayed, so this is more closer to the open, but still. Solar Edge, I know Ben was talking about. That's on here as well. SEDG. We have a couple other popular names: Airbnb, Plug Power, DoorDash. A lot of the sports betting names are on here as well. Penn, LVS, Las Vegas Sands, Win. So sports betting is definitely, one of the best performing sectors or industries I'm seeing right now. Along with the clean energy, looks like it's up here as well.
Got it. Any other stuff that's on your radar from a news perspective this week? Any things you're looking forward to happening, or earnings or anything like that?
One thing that Ben was talking about a little bit ago was the low volume yesterday, and I tweet every single day of what the volume is and the most traded stocks, and I could definitely tell you that yesterday, I mean, it was a holiday, it was clearly going to happen. It was definitely a very, very light volume day yesterday. Everything was down 20, 30% across the board. It was interesting. They were also talking about SoFi and how many institutions were buying into it. It was actually the most traded large cap stock yesterday. I wouldn't track it every single day. And no, I don't believe this has happened before. I don't vividly remember SoFi leading the day up there. So it will be interesting. Definitely was a light day and a great day for it to do it. But it will see. And I'm just going to do a quick check at the volume early and see if there's anything leading the way there. It's way too early to tell. But Ford, Apple, AT&T, and SoFi are the ones with a little bit of a distance around the rest.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Continue to keep my eye on some of those stories. Just watching MGM on my screen, plotting through a couple of different things. Richard, bringing it back to you. So have any of those names, we kind of given them now like 15, 30 minutes to breathe a little bit. I'm just looking, AFRM slightly down on the day. And then a couple of others I think that we've talked about. Oh, actually, real quick, I want to talk about Gush, which I should have probably bought more of yesterday. This is something that's continuously been on my radar. I've been speaking about Gush ever since Hurricane Ida hit down on the coast. And okay, and it's just been flying. I mean, this thing's been a monster. It continues to outperform, especially in that sector. It's double leverage, so that certainly helps. Up 2.3% today. Came back. I mean, it was down a little bit earlier, just way above everything, way above volume, above. I have a couple of anchor view ops on this chart, and then again, I mean, I asked yesterday what people's thoughts were on this industry. People seem pretty bullish on this oil and gas industry. That we do need, I think, multiple forms of energy. It's not just going to be created from alternative resources, although it is good to have those into we can see obviously that like Tesla's a pretty big part of the S&P 500 and some others, but I just wanted to get thoughts real quick on the oil and gas industry. Ben, any thoughts on Gush or Richard?
Yeah, I'll say a little bit about it. Yeah, this has been a really strong industry group. If you go over to MarketSmith, which is kind of my screener, what I use, it's been a leading group the past few weeks, and we've seen a lot of names really start to work. So playing an ETF, if you see an overall group move like that, is definitely a good way to go. And looking at the chart, there's a nice pivot right below 80 up the right-hand side of this base, which could have been a good lower spot to get in. And yeah, it's holding its 10-day. This is a powerful move. The whole group is strong, and I think Ben mentioned this as well. When you see an overall group move, that's the best confirmation that the probabilities are kind of on your side, and you can either play the overall ETF or you can try to find the strongest stocks within that group. But regardless, I think oil and gas, there's been so much stuff working, and it's definitely in a nice trend right now. And yesterday, the downside reversal was a little bit worrisome for very short term, but the overall move, just holding that 10-day moving average up the right hand side, is pretty powerful.
Awesome. Okay. And then was there any of those other ones that you had spoken about before that you've seen maybe some moves in since, we talked about them maybe 15, 20 minutes ago?
Yeah. Yeah, so I actually picked up some SoFi on the opening range breakout on the 15-minute chart. And right now, it actually moved through the high volume close that I was talking about yesterday. and is acting well. So kind of what I'm waiting for now is how does it close today? Does it close up on the day? Ideally, it just kind of breaks out and starts trending upwards, finishes at the high on great volume. But if it does reverse and close below the high volume close from yesterday, that would be a warning sign 100%. And I've got my stop loss pretty much at the low of the day. So about 2% risk for me. So we'll have to see what happens. This could work or it couldn't. Regardless, I think it's a good stock to be watching. And you always have to manage your risk. But yeah, because of that highest volume ever yesterday, that's what kind of gives me the conviction that this could start being a change of character and start to trend nicely.
Because of, it's a newer stock. That 200 day moving average just started, right, about a month ago,
Right.
on the chart, and now it's pretty much the first time since it started that it's made, highs above it. I see the wick or the tail, I guess, is kind of just touching right off that 200 day. So you would, I guess, be looking to see it hold that 200 day, and then move upwards into this area where there's not really a ton of volume
Yep,
previously.
absolutely. Absolutely. And we were talking about anchored VWAPs earlier. If you go over to a 15-minute chart and plot one on yesterday's opening candle where a ton of volume came in, this morning it basically found support right at that level. And then, like I said, set up a nice opening range breakout on a 15-minute chart. So, yeah, it looks good. It's trending nicely. That volume is huge. And now all that's left is either to let it trend, or if it stops me out, no problem, move on to the next opportunity.
Got it. Got it. Yep, that makes sense. And I think you just mentioned the stop losses. We continue to talk about those, especially if you are swing trading or day trading or anything like that. Do make sure that you're using a stop loss. Some people use them a little bit tighter than others, even up to 2-3%. Some go a little bit looser, 5 to 7%. You can also use them if you're placing a trade, which sometimes you don't know, right? Sometimes you think you might take something for the swing a little bit longer. You have to see how it shakes out. You have to see if there's news coming out, just multiple different areas. So you can, just continue to use good risk management practices and place those so that worst case, you can always get back in. I think that's kind of the mentality, right, Richard?
Yeah, as a swing trader, position trader, I never want to be in a stock when it's down more, for me personally, more than 7% from my entry. So I'm willing to take little paper cuts and then try it multiple times to see if it will work out. So SoFi could fail the high volume close today and stay tight, stay set up, and form an inside day and up or some other setup within the next few days. And I'll try it again if it didn't work. So keeping those losses small helps your mentality. It helps you protect your mental and financial capital and allows you to basically take multiple shots at stuff. I think Paul Tudor Jones has some story where his best ever trade, he tried it 7, 9 times even maybe, but each time he was stopped out prior, he was taking very small losses. And when it finally worked, it obviously paid for all those small losses. So that's kind of the mentality of a trader. And one more thing I want to mention about the SoFi chart is I like how this morning, if you once again look at the 15-minute chart, it undercut and broke the range it had kind of been forming late yesterday with a low of about 18 and the high of about 18.52. So it undercut that, stopping out anybody who used those lows of that range as their stop loss. And now it's responding well. And as I said, we'll just have to see how it acts from here.
100%. Gerg, I want to come back to you. Are you taking some profit on NGM here?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Are making any other moves with that?
So far, nope. But the flow is 98% bullish above 100K. So, very, very interesting.
So I guess, it's good to always take a little bit of profit there, for those. Once you're, I guess, up, something like 40-50% like this has been running, certainly never hurts, especially if you have a lot of calls in place. Looks like Peter
Yeah, I can't.
Tuchman is going.
Is he here? Okay.
Looks like Peter Tuchman is also going to be joining. I think he said he joined. I can't see him on my screen. I did shoot him an invite. I'm just trying to get him in here. If anyone's familiar, Peter is at the New York Stock Exchange on most days and has been a broker there for about 35 years, so has plenty to share with us. But I'm just trying to get him into here. But I'll bring it back to you. What were you saying, Kirk?
No, yeah, but if you look at the flows, people are buying 45 and 47 calls now. The same expiry there, so
So is that
nothing on the weeklies.
so they're going very slightly in the money?
Yep, 55. If you even in the morning, the trend was 40, 41, 47, 46, 46, 46, 47. It's nothing crazy out of the money. The highest was 48, but that was only 14,000. But someone just spent, I think, 300K on 40 calls.
Are you tracking this on a specific service?
Yeah, I use Bloomberg and Blackbox.
Oh, cool. Black box stocks.
Yeah, that's pretty
Very
good too. I think you can use Flow.io, that's pretty good too. Or Unusual Whales. All of them do the same thing about
got
options, whatever you like.
got it. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm looking at the flow right now as well. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the 90% bullish volume certainly is interesting to see, and then that premium 98% bullish premium. That's pretty nuts. And shout out Black Box Stocks. They bought me a drink this weekend at the conference, so a little bit of love for them. Cool. Ben, I wanted to come back to you real quick. Kind of same question I'd asked Richard. We talked at this point now about 30 minutes ago. We've given the open a little bit of time to create some trend lines and some other stuff. Have you made any moves in the market yet?
I just added to UPST, which came through over yesterday's high, broke the trend line, and now threw the anchored VWAP off of the high. So that was a quick $9 move from this morning's lows. I didn't add to Sedge, but I had that one yesterday. That one's up about 6% today too. So those, like we talked about earlier, those solar stocks do seem to be following through on yesterday's move. But UPST, this one, it has really big potential the way this is set up in the flag and kind of where the highs sit as it comes through there. And if we see volume pick up a little bit more, I definitely think it has potential to have a big day. It's up about 3% right now, but it was actually kind of hanging around the flat line until this kind of last 10-minute candle.
UPSD loves those big quick moves, huh?
It does. It just kind of moves sideways and kind of wears people out, and then all of a sudden, boom, it pops and goes, and the volume comes in, and then everyone rushes back into it. But that all stocks have character, and that tends to be the character of that stock. So if you can kind of see that the price action is getting quiet and it's consolidating quietly, and the volume's easing up as it comes in, you kind of know that, okay, any day here we're gonna get that pop, because that's just how this stock acts. And then once it gets going, once it has the momentum behind it, then it tends to really go. Because I'm a fan of the power earnings gaps, and when it has that power earnings gap, I always like to attach an anchored VWAP to that day, the big gap on the big volume. So attach anchored VWAP to that, and then I'll usually get like 3 or 4 opportunities over the next few weeks of where it comes down and maybe it tests the anchored VWAP, or maybe it cuts just below it and then it reclaims it, and I can get back in and kind of trade around a core position. But with UPST, since that earnings gap in August, it hasn't tested the anchored VWAP once. It's been the 80 MA or the 10 MA. It's been trending higher. Even this recent consolidation, where it went from, what was the high? I think the high was around 350, 346. So even when it went from 346 and down to 281, which you think, wow, that's quite a decline, volume got quiet, and it still never even came close to testing that anchored VWAP from the power earnings gap, which is down closer to 240. So it just goes to show you the not only the relative strength, but just the character of this stock.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on there. Completely agree with you. And it's not even close to most of its moving averages besides the 21 day, which it's kind of sitting right on top of. And it's nuts how far off it is from that major volume ledge, which is now all the way back at what, 118, 120, and just so far from there. This is another one which just started having a 200-day moving average, right?
Oh, we're still on
Yep,
UPST, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And again, when you see this kind of strength, we're what? Let's see. Yeah, just started, and price is 131% above that level. So yeah, I mean, you think, wow, this is quite stretched, from those moving averages, but it's actually showing you power and strength and giving you conviction that those funds are piling in. I know Richard mentioned how he watches some of the institutional sponsorships with the fund. This one, Columbia Acorn, is one that I tend to watch as well, and they've taken a position in UPST. I know Richard mentioned earlier he likes Fidelity Contra Fund. That's one that I follow closely as well. So you like to see when these young companies get that institutional sponsorship, and that it's coming from some of the really strong and sharpest fund managers, that they're coming in. That really helps with conviction as well. And you can just tell by the chart, and like we said, how extended it is from the moving averages. I think with the 50-day moving average, you're about 30%. Yeah, you're 28% above even the 50-day moving average. So you can be pretty sure that the institutions are really trying to get aggressive and position themselves in it. Over the last 4 quarters, you've gone from 53 funds to 261. And obviously, when that next one comes out, it'll be even higher.
Keeping an eye on it as well. Evan, did we want to do any? First off, I'm just chatting with Peter as well. It seems like there's some technical difficulties with getting him into the chat. I think it's for him appearing that he's inside of here, but none of us can see him. So hopefully, he'll be able to kind of restart the app and get in. Spaces can still be a little bit weird. To see. But shout out also Twitter Spaces. You sent me a box of merch yesterday. That was pretty cool. Sent me a little custom Twitter JBL speaker and a sweatshirt, a water bottle, and stuff like that. Evan, for trade of the week, I'm not sure what our budget is right now. So for anyone who's unfamiliar, the Bullish Rippers account that's up here, I guess it's Bullish Rippers right now for Halloween, sponsors about $500 a month. That allows us to go and just, for lack of a better term, just buy some options and see how they go and just have some learning lessons. It's been a tough run so far, tough sledding, honestly, in option land. Our last one that we did was a Facebook, I believe it was a 360 call right before Facebook kind of nosedived. We did get out with about $160 out of that trade, so I think we have maybe like 200 left. I think we ended up not placing a trade last week to just kind of feel out the market. So we do have maybe like $200 to throw into something. So perhaps, I don't know if anything's come up on your radar today, Evan, but we could poke at that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Before we get into that, I'd love to first use our speakers up here, who are amazing traders across the board, to maybe help us in a little bit. We definitely could use a little bit of help. But the whole point of the trade is to make these mistakes, is to come out of it with lessons that we can share with you all. So we could be the people using our money or using Bullish Rippers' money to make mistakes, and hopefully you can learn from it and not have to lose the money yourself. So just quickly, Bullish Rippers, Bullish Rippers. I actually just saw them move down to listener, but I think they're still up here. That's a glitch. I personally tweet from that account. We put a lot of work and time and effort into it, so it really would be great if you guys could check them out and give them a follow. It's the Green Raccoon. It's normally Bullish Rippers, but we're going with the Halloween theme. But yeah, there's nothing really stock wise that kind of has popped up on my screen, I would be fine with doing the oil Gush trade. Quick thing that I was talking about, I know Gush is a U.S. company ETF and it's leverage, but a little empirical thing. I was watching a YouTube video over the weekend from a couple of YouTubers from the UK, and I don't know exactly when the video was filmed, but the gas lines there were pretty crazy, and there was multiple of them, and it was like, it wasn't just 3, 4 cars. It was 30, 40 cars waiting in line to get gas. So that's one area, you tend to get the biggest price moves before we have the problems with it. Who knows if it's going to extend higher, but that's one area that does interest me a little bit. And maybe some of the other names we talked about here, but yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'll turn it over. So Ben, Richard, I think some things that are on our radar are probably some of the names that we've gone over. Rich, I'm coming back to you because SoFi just looks like it tipped downwards.
Yeah, so it's kind of stalling. I'm looking at the market. We're not doing great. We're at the lows. So everything how I interpret the market, that direction is the most important thing. The stocks I trade, the growth stocks, are going to struggle if the general market, the QQQ, the Nasdaq Composite, the S&P 500 are in a correction. So when we're in a situation like this, I'm much more selective. I trade smaller. My risk is tighter. So yeah, we'll just have to see if it holds my stop and see what happens. But it is showing a little bit of relative strength, honestly. And probably the ones that are standing out to me today in terms of growth stocks are UPST and apps. Those are much stronger than the indexes at this point.
So how are the just bringing it into how are the Qs doing today?
Let me bring up that chart. We're right at the lows of the day. We're down 0.21%. So following through a little bit on the decline, the poor closes the past 3 days.
Okay, tough to see. Looks like it just broke through the 100-day, right?
I don't have that up on my chart, but yeah, I believe you. But in general, for me, the times that I make the most money in the market and when my style works best is when the Qs, the IWO, small cap growth are trending above the 21 EMA and a nice uptrend at all-time highs. Right now, we're in a correction. We're pulling back. This is not when the big money is made, the easy money is made. So for me, I'm mostly cash right now. I'm just kind of taking a select few shots here and there. But really, the big opportunity is when we get that fall through day and we start to see a changing character in the market. Right now, we're experiencing a lot of chop. It's harder to manage risk. Things aren't following through a ton. And there's just really a select few names that, if you can catch them, are doing well. Affirm, UPST. But we're not in a super high probability environment, is I guess what I'm trying to get at.
Let's bring that back actually because you just mentioned UPSD. That's running now, huh, Ben?
Yeah, it's looking good. We just tagged almost 328, which would put it up about $17 on the session, up about 5% now. So I know there's a lot of eyes on this. So it'll be interesting to see if it holds through the day, because a lot of people on FinTwit were watching this kind of set up, and I know there's a lot of eyes, and usually when that's the case, it doesn't get rewarded like this so easily. But maybe UPSD is one of those stocks strong enough to overcome the curse of too many FinTwit eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be real tough, but definitely there's plenty of strength behind it, and it's nice to see it kind of come back towards those all-time highs, in the 330s. Still holding some shares from back at actually $130 a share.
I also like to look at the volume run rate. It looks like right now we're at about plus 43%. So that's the volume pace above average. So that's pretty strong at this point. I think the highest we've had, let's see, yeah, about 10 million shares recently. That was going back to mid-September, and we're on that close to that kind of pace. So yeah, good volume behind it. So it does have a shot at holding these gains.
Perfect. So I still unfortunately can't get Peter in here. I think that he's it's not happening. But I did want to talk some macro because that's what we talked about with Peter, and maybe Evan, you have some thoughts on this, and I can kind of just pull in one of the stories that I'm talking about, and we can just pass that around for a second. The IMF cut global growth forecasts because of the supply chain disruptions that continue to happen. I know that we've had supply chain disruptions for a while now, caused by multiple concerns, whether that be COVID or if you even go back to the shipping kind of crisis that was going on. Just any thoughts on how this supply chain can continue to affect areas of the market? We've seen it with everything from food to semiconductors. Could this continue to hurt the economy?
So quickly with the supply chain, what's really causing the problems? I did some research back on Nike earnings, and I think they're one of the companies that, it's a good example of really what's happening here. It's not just one thing that's affecting the supply chain, it's multiple strains, multiple areas. So, first you kind of talked about it there with shipping costs. Shipping costs are up, but also the time it takes to ship stuff is up significantly. We're hearing a lot of stuff right now about ships outside, waiting in California ports, waiting to get in, and everything along the lines of that. Nike said a couple weeks ago, I don't know exactly when it was, and that in transit time, the time that it takes to deliver stuff was double what it was pre-pandemic. They said it used to take 40 days to get stuff from Asia to the US, and now it's taking 80 days. So there's that, but it's also combining the increased time with the increased cost per day. So you can see how that would struggle. But on top of that, there's also a lot of COVID caused shutdowns in countries where where a lot of these companies like to get their supply from. So the main one, and most popular one right now, is Vietnam, which has shut down a lot of factories due to COVID. They are in the early stages of starting to come back. I have a headline that I'm sitting on right now, about to put out, talking about how Intel and Samsung aim to resume their operations by the end of next month in the country. But it's still ongoing. It's still a very fluid situation, but it's not like there's one thing that's causing supply chain issues across the board. It's 5 to 6 different things that affects different companies in different ways, but it's something that is probably going to continue for a little bit, and it's going to take some time to work itself out.
Okay. Any thoughts from you, Richard? Is this something that you pay attention to?
I'm more just a price action guy. So yeah, I try to keep it as simple as possible. And if the way how I see it basically is, if institutions care about it, and it takes it'll basically show up on the charts, is how I see it.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty fair to see it flowing through. All right, probably just because I'm not sure we can get Peter on, we'll probably go for like 5, 7 more minutes, and then we'll see if there's anything else that pops up. I'm just continuing to take a look and see if there's any strength. AFRM up about 0.5% still. Spies down just very slightly, basically flat. Tesla up about 1.5%. Overall, I think the market has been decently flat today. From what I'm seeing, my personal portfolio is up about 0.8%, but there's a pretty heavy weighting towards crypto, which is having a decent day. Bitcoin's still holding 57,000, and Ethereum's having a nice day. It's up 1.48%. So between those, things seem okay. Evan, you got a comment?
Yeah, a couple things. I actually pinned up top. Bitcoin is up almost 2x this year, which is really surprising. I feel like there was a period where like it felt like it was, being really weak, and it felt like it's moving a lot lower. And you kind of just take a step back and just see how it's doing year to date. I posted at the top of the space is just what it was at the start versus now, and it is almost 2x. It's interesting to see how it compares to everything else. But I just wanted to quickly talk about one or two of the stories that broke while we were on the spaces. Some of the stuff might be a little bit earlier, but it's when I got it out. The first one was the one I just talked about, how Intel and Samsung aim to resume full production in Vietnam by the end of November. Next one was a second Facebook whistleblower is reportedly willing to testify before Congress. So there's a New York Post article. It's not behind a paywall, so I'll read it after, but you guys can check it out. Amazon is going to introduce their Echo Buds in Canada, which will be interesting. But one of the biggest stories that crossed my eyes while we were doing this, and I'd love to get other people's opinions on Tesla in here if they have any, maybe from more of a technical standpoint. But it was talking about how first the China sales, car sales during September came in at 1.58 million, which is down 17% from September 2020. And then I saw the number that Tesla actually produced their record number of China-made cars for the month. Sold, sorry, not produced. They sold a record number, and it was just over 56,000. So it's interesting to see how, the overall car industry in China took a little bit of a pullback, a decent bit of a pullback, but Tesla China still advanced, and it's definitely because of their factory coming online, but still seeing the demand to do that and sell the cars is really fascinating. So I know Tesla, as we talked about once or twice, it broke above 800 to open, back above 800. It was there earlier last week. I'd love to maybe get some of our speakers' thoughts on Tesla in general. Ben, I don't know if you have any, and then Richard and Gerv.
Sure. It's probably all about that 800 mark right now because it's tried to get through there a couple times and wasn't able to, but through there again today. And the trend here has been up. You can draw a trend line from the summer lows. What's that, back in May, and it's just been following that very nicely, following the. Yeah, I think it's look good if we get a close above 800, and that's been kind of a psychological level here over the last few weeks. And if it closes above there, from my perspective, it looks like it's in good shape for higher.
Yeah, my thoughts are pretty much the same as Ben. It's been struggling with that 800 level. We've seen a few times where it's trying to take that and then had a pretty bad close, but it's showing relative strength versus the market 100%. Just grinding higher above the 50-day and the 21 EMA, and yeah, we'll see if it can make its all-time highs if the overall market kind of turns things around.
Gerg, any thoughts?
On what? I was just placing a trade, so I just had my name. My
No,
bad.
you go on Tesla, or kind of where it's at. Ben and Richard
No.
more or less talked about 800 as the significant level.
Yeah, past 4 days it has broken 800, but it doesn't stay above that. So personally, I wouldn't go long Tesla, but indirectly, I do own a lot of SPY and QQQ, so I do have a bit of exposure, but I wouldn't buy Tesla here. I don't like Tesla by $100, to be honest.
Still, also I think with Tesla, I'm holding as well. Some Tesla right now, but that's just a long-term play. I don't think this is necessarily a great time to swing trade it personally. Um, it just up at this 800 level, it just feels a little bit volatile. Also, MGM, holding about that 6% line, Gerg, right? I think you said
Yeah, I
you sold
sold
almost everything.
75% of my calls. Yeah, I was almost up 60% on them, so took profit. But the flow is still almost all bullish. But now people are buying 45 calls expiring on Friday.
And that makes you a little bit more wanting to get out sooner.
Yeah, the volume is kind of dying comparatively. Like I was expecting a move like Sofi, but Sofi did get a big bump on CNBC as I think Jim Cramer or his sidekick mentioned it as the trade of the day. So if MGM might get some coverage like that, it might run under 10% from here. But other than that, I don't think it will go up more.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean it's traversing right now at 6%, so I'm just keeping an eye on it. And we'll just hopefully it'll pop back up over that 7-8% range. All right, I just got Ben back up here, and I'm getting a couple of comments. Oh, one thing I wanted to say is I'm pretty sure, and there's just been some difficulties with this. I'm pretty sure I was able to get this one recorded. So I'm gonna try to get this, recording up for anybody that wants to listen through specific tickers or insights as soon as possible. So just make sure that you're, following the Wolf channel. I post that out, and then it goes onto our YouTube, onto our Spotify, and I always post links to those as well. And like I said, I'll try to get that up today. Jessica, thanks for joining us.
Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear
Yep,
me?
can hear you loud and clear. How's it going by you? Have you made any moves today? Anything on your radar?
I haven't. Well, I'm eyeing Facebook. Last summer, in terms of trading, I was doing a lot of mostly overnight trades on momentum stocks, but just recently, obviously, there was a real change in character. So the market's too choppy for that right now. So I'm back to trading options, which I guess sounds suicidal, but this is something that I like to do. So yeah, I mean, for example, I've already been in Facebook once and sold it. Basically, I just ideally wait for volatility to skyrocket and sell puts, and then when we finally get some green and volatility drops, I take the gain. But I'm not doing weeklies. I like to give myself it's bigger gains, but I like to give myself more of a cushion. So I'm not doing anything before January, except in very specific cases where I'm betting on a short squeeze. That's different. But for profiting from writing options, I'm looking at least a couple of months out, sometimes longer.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's probably best to not take super short-term options. You're probably smart to be doing that, especially if you know they're calls. People just get killed by the theta. Um, with those short squeezes, have you been actively hunting those?
I have y- I guess mostly the ones that I've taken are brought up are presented by one of my FinTwit friends. He's pretty good at what's it markets and mayhem. We chat a lot, and he's actually really good at finding ideas for day trading. So honestly, a lot of the ones I take are not my screen.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's pretty fair. I'm certainly no stranger to following and looking at what some of the others are doing when it comes to those things. People are looking for the short interest, and they're looking for just that opportunity, the volume. So many things have to line up correctly in order to make them work. So no problem with that. Okay, so we are a little bit past 10:30. I think we've gone over a lot of the names that I wanted to hit on. Um, I think that there's maybe a couple of others that I could throw out there. Evan, was there any other segments that you wanted to hit on before maybe I throw out a few more tickers and then we do a little bit of wrap up?
I definitely did want to talking to tickers. I definitely wanted to give us the chance to talk about your ticker NFT collection at some point. So I hope that's coming. And then just one quickly with what Jessica was just talking about there and what you were saying. It is totally okay to follow people, like to follow people for ideas, to be the start of it and kind of do that. It's that's a great way to get new names and get new stuff on your radar, and that perfectly works. But your investing style and kind of what you do, your exits, your strategy, and everything like that. And I think that listening to Jessica, if you kind of just listen to that one word of her following other people, you might be whatever. But if you listen to the whole thing of her whole strategy behind it and how it's hers and she has become an expert at it, I think that's really important to know. And make sure that when you do these styles, it's perfectly okay to get ideas from other people. It's encouraged so you can do less time and less work. But those setups, the strategy, when to buy, when to sell, you really do have to kind of create your own strategy. You can't follow people with that. You can learn from other people and get there. But if you're just simply following others for all that stuff, you will, in a matter of time, underperform significantly. So like I said, it's great to follow people for ideas. Just that underlying strategy. Make sure you yourself become an expert at it, and don't necessarily just follow other people.
Yeah, good point there. And yeah, I think it's a good time to talk about the tickers since we're talking about all this charting. So, I've been working on the project for a little bit. I'm sure at this point everybody's very familiar with the NFT space, or they've at least seen something in it. I thought it was cool that, people were doing a lot of different types of artwork and different stuff like that, but I was wondering where the overlap would come between stocks and finance, which is what I'm really into, and this NFT market, which is something I think a little bit different, new and data on the blockchain and stuff like that. So I was like, how can these two intersect? So I've been working on a project called the tickers, or the NF tickers, and it's basically, we just took, I think 92 of the most popular stocks that I found through different screeners and volume and trending and stuff like that, and then 8 really popular cryptos. So think things like, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Binance, Polygon, stuff like that. And we turned them all into NFTs, and we're going to give a few of them away. This project's more to create a sense of financial awareness within the community, to show people like, hey, there can be overlap between stocks and trading and NFTs. I just wanted something that like gave some middle ground. So I just pinned it up top. If you're interested in being a part of that giveaway, you can just go ahead and check that out. I think we're going to give away maybe some of the more popular ones from FinTwit. So I put maybe like an upstart. I think maybe like an upstart would be a good fit in here. We do have some AMC, some GME, for the people that are looking for those. But a lot of the really popular ones, we got NVIDIA and AMD and all those. So I think it's a cool like little overlap. Evan, did you have a favorite from the collection?
I definitely did. You can maybe tell based on the 1 or 2 stocks I chose to bring up. There was a couple I was deciding between. NVIDIA is one of my favorites that I definitely wanted, but I ended up going with the Tesla one, which, Kathy Wood, I've been tracking her for a little bit. Tesla's been one of the names, if not the name that I've, held for. It's not the name I've held for longest. It's one of the names with my biggest gains. I love it. I'm still a fan. So Tesla was definitely the one that stood out to me that, I want.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the goal with the project is to just use that money to create more financial literacy opportunities. So just to have a spot where we can post about these different stocks, and if somebody's holding, let's say, the Amazon one, and there it goes up, it'd be interesting to see maybe the correlation within the NFT market of that, and trying to tie them to the stocks. Because right now, I'm sure people are familiar that the NFTs aren't securities; they're traded as a collectible. So this is kind of like giving a little bit of like a crossover between the collectible to the securities. So once again, that's pinned in the top. The at is the NF tickers on the collection, and we are doing a giveaway. I think we're going to do a few more giveaways of those as well. Again, it's less about trying to like sell out this project, and more about trying to, again, like show people that there's more to this space. I think a lot of people that got into the NFT space weren't even trading stocks beforehand. Maybe they were trading crypto. So we do have a few of those in here, but they can kind of go through and be like, okay, I'm trying to pick out an NFT. And I think when people go to do that, they're like, what's rare, right? What looks different? And now they're coming in and saying, okay, I have to actually learn about these. I have to look and say like, oh, why would I want maybe the Moderna one versus Uber versus Peloton? How can I understand if this is going to be something that has value, moving into the future? Well, maybe I want to pick one that I can do a little bit of due diligence on and understand it. If you go into each of them, we put traits about the stock, we put descriptions of the stock and the movement of it. So things like that, and trying to keep up and just continue with that. So I don't want to harp on it too much. I am going to do a big space tomorrow at 5 p.m. EST with several big players in the space, and we're going to talk a little bit more on it, go into the industry. But this one was more focusing on stocks. But I just thought it was a cool little crossover between the two different areas. So if anybody wants to support and hop in, deeply appreciate it. If you do get one, feel free to shoot it over to me in the DMs. I'm happy to chat about whatever that stock is. I'll chart it for you. I'll try to bring it up on Spaces. However, we can just add value and due diligence to the community, I think would just be great. With that being said, 2 other tickers I do want to throw at Ben and Richard are ones that we just kind of mentioned. So Ben, can I get your thoughts on NVIDIA?
Boy, this is a tough one. I don't like when there's uncertainty and news pending with, the merger and the time frame on it. I know Evan touched on that earlier. It's also below anchored VWAP from off of the high. It's below anchored VWAP from off of the recent low over the summer. It just, the news needs to get out of the way. It needs to be resolved. There needs to be some clarity there. Having said all that, from a technical perspective, you do have a pivot that it's sitting basically right on. 207.33 is the pivot that I have marked. You're just below the 50-day now, 65 days right there, kind of where it's at too. I could see it bounce here, but I just feel like the money is better put to work elsewhere where there's not this, cloud overhanging with the merger news. So that's just my overall thoughts. Since we're on that topic though of semis, I've been keeping a very close eye on AMD. I think the opportunity there may be better, at least in the short term, than Nvidia. If I was going to go that route over the short term, I would probably go that direction.
Got it. Got it. How about you, Richard? AMD, Nvidia?
Yeah, I agree with everything Ben said. The chart on AMD looks a little bit more developed. It's in a nice base. It was rejected. It looks like at the from the VWAP from the highs, but is setting up a nice tight consolidation. And if you look at Nvidia's chart, it looks very correlated to the market. Just kind of doing what the market's doing. And yeah, I agree with Ben. I think there's better options at the moment. Nvidia is always one to watch when it sets up a nice base, nice long term base, and it had a really nice run. But right now, not super high up on my focus list.
I would just like to jump in quickly. I definitely agree with a lot of what they were saying there. For me personally, when I look at the company and not the stock, Nvidia is definitely one of the companies I love the most. But one big thing that Ben was talking about was the ARM holdings and how there's a lot of headline risk and a lot of stuff like that going forward. And we needed to clear up first before Nvidia I see starting to outperform significantly again. And just based on all the headlines I'm seeing and everything I'm seeing now, it feels like that's going to be an overhang for a decent little bit. I love the sector. I love the company. And I actually agree with a lot of what Ben said there, talking about how, for me, NVIDIA and AMD are going to do similar things. There's going to be slight differences. They're different companies, but they're playing in the same area and they're similar segment of it. So I think while there's the overhang, I do think that AMD has a little bit more room to outperform NVIDIA. But over the long term, when we look back on this 5 to 10 years, after we're past this ARM Holdings deal, it might look a little different. So this is definitely, we have a lot more short-term traders in here. So I think that that's the perspective to look at this from, that there's going to be a little bit of possible, I don't want to say underperformance, but underperformance to what it would have done in other names in the sector. Until we can get past this ARM Holdings deal, which is not gonna be fixed anytime soon. I think we have at least a year.
I'd completely agree with that, and I'd say within that, depending on your time frame, there's also opportunity there, because if you are a longer term, holder, and you can take advantage of what might be some weakness in Nvidia just because the market doesn't like the fact that there's no clarity there, and the market hates uncertainty. So if you have a longer term time frame, that can also be an opportunity.
Yeah, just a couple thoughts real quick, because I think I use a slightly different, when I do trade, I use a slightly different style. I've already been in and out of NVIDIA. NVIDIA I took at, I didn't bottom ticket, but when you look at the chart, when it dropped below 200, I took it there and was out, but I sold puts and then was out by the time it got back to about 205. And that for me as an options trade was a fantastic trade, because when you look at the chart for at least the last 5 years, Nvidia has basically been a good stock to buy at any time in the last 5 years. So for me, okay, if I'm wrong, it's Nvidia. I'll just keep, I can wait it out. But fortunately, I timed that one correctly. So even if you're worried about the uncertainty, depending on your style, you can still make money on the stock. For me, a volatility spike in a stock as high quality as Nvidia that to me is a gift.
I agree completely with that there. Being a long-term investor, it lets me go through these times where maybe I'm not super confident about the short term, but I still look at what you said and kind of look at the underlying company and think to myself, this is a company that I want to be behind. I want to hold through this short-term weakness I see. I don't want to try and time it. There's a lot of money to be made while you're timing it for traders, but as the long-term investor, I just want to hold through a theme that I see playing out over the next 5 to 10 years. And for me, Nvidia is one of my top 5 holdings, I believe, maybe even top 4 or 3. I'm not necessarily buying more at this point, but I am not anywhere close to a point where I want to sell.
Got it. I think we're all on a similar page there. Okay. All right. I think with that, pretty satisfied with everything that we've looked at. There's maybe a couple of other tickers on the radar, but don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. I am going to move into just giving everybody, a few minutes, I think, here to wrap up. Maybe just talk about what else is on your watch list for the week. If you're, going to be doing anything on spaces or just other stuff, that way people can know. And, while everyone's just going through, again, I highly recommend. These speakers took an hour and a half out of their day, when they could maybe be more focused on charting or other stuff, but to come and to educate. Clearly, me and Evan just been pelting them with questions the whole time, and they've graciously answered everything. So I think that they are very much worth the follow, and most of them will probably be back on spaces with me throughout the week as we pick it up. And hopefully this market gives us plenty to talk about and plenty of energy. Ben, would you like to go first?
Okay, sure. I'll give you something that's actually pulling back today, and that's the miners, that group, Mara, MARA, HUT, HUT. I didn't check SI. Let me see what that one's doing. That one's actually
It's up
flat.
a little bit.
Yeah, that one's up a little bit. But that group kind of moving sideways. When I see Bitcoin and Ethereum and they're acting well, and this group has really been on fire. Big volume coming into these names, a lot of call flow into these names, and today they're down a little bit. This is something that I think may be a short-term opportunity to get involved if you haven't at this point. Hopefully, you've been following along with our spaces, and we've been talking about them, from much lower. But this little pause here that refreshes, I think, is an opportunity in the bigger picture.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Ben, you'll be back on tonight. I think we'll
Yeah.
be doing one together at 8 p.m.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to stop in. I've got a newsletter now, so I want to get that out to everybody. But if I can get that out in a timely manner, which is often market dependent, if I can get that out in a timely manner, yeah, I plan to definitely stop in tonight.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Ben. Richard.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me on. In terms of what I'm looking at, kind of what I said, I'm focused on Affirm, UPST, apps has been super strong. The miners, like Ben said, HUT, SI are consolidating nicely near the tops of bases. So those are my focus. In terms of outside projects, one thing I do want to mention is, and I'll pin this up to the top, is with Traderline, which is the company I work for. We're bringing you a swing trading masterclass from Oliver Kell, who was the 2020 U.S. Investing Champion. If you want to check this out, there's going to be a really fantastic learning experience talking about how he interprets the market, buy setup, selling, psychology, which just isn't basically talked about enough. So definitely a really amazing opportunity. And we've been going through slides and working hard. And we've got the first webinar coming up this weekend. So definitely check that out if you're interested in swing trading or just learning more about technical analysis in general, because his methods and how he interprets the market is very fractal. You can look at it on a monthly time frame, a weekly time frame, and even if you're a long-term investor, it should help you interpret the market.
Absolutely. I will definitely vouch for Richard after seeing him wake up at like 4 a.m. on Saturday to make the rest of his presentation for FinTwit conference. He certainly puts in the due diligence and the time and the effort. So when he's speaking, it's coming from a place of research and knowledge. He's not just off the cuff here. So appreciate you, Richard.
Really, really
Thanks so much
quickly,
for having me on again.
I pinned it at the top. So it's both up there by both of us actually. So just check it out, and you'll be able to click in with one click to see what he was talking about.
Awesome.
Fantastic. You're Gavin.
Yeah, I'm just posting a thread, so keep an eye out, Wolf. You might want to hop on in this one with the profits of the first one.
Definitely. Is this okay, is this all right, I see, it's coming in 9 minutes. Sounds good. Okay, awesome, man.
Yeah, 9 minutes. Yeah.
Keeping my eye out. And Jessica.
Yeah, for today so far, I was watching SIG, but change a character and leave alone. I am eyeing Facebook. There's a lot of news, but frankly, there's always a lot of news with Facebook. So all I really care about is if there's a volatility spike that I can exploit. This so I'm gonna see how the day progresses. But I've honestly been having kind of a party trading these like some of these supply chain fears, and also like very high quality large and mega caps. I'm trying to stick to really high quality just in case I'm wrong. I'm not trying to get stuck for 3 months in a stock that I didn't really want to hold anyway. I mean, I can sleep at night trading Target and TJX. And also, frankly, they're less crowded trades, which I kind of like as well.
Gotcha. Makes that a little bit easier to get in and out. Not sure if I'm just not hearing Jessica. She cut out a little bit for me there. But yeah, I heard what you said with the less crowded trades and certainly trading.
Oh, I
Oh, sorry. I
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
I
your mic.
lost the connection.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I do like when there are less eyes on a stock. Everybody's watching UPST. Nobody on FinTwit cares what happens to American Eagle Outfitters, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. There's definitely some names that get a lot more attention than others. Cool. Evan?
Yeah, so I appreciate everyone for joining in, and I say this every time, for making the spaces what it is. Thank you so much to the speakers for coming in and taking time out of their day to give us such great information, and thank you to the listeners for joining in and all the great messages and clearly taking value out of everything that is being spoken above. It's really only worth it because there are people in here taking value, listening, and learning and getting better. So one thing I want to take a step further with what Wolf was saying. He was saying you should follow these people. I'm going to say you need to follow these people. All the speakers we have up here, they took time out of their day to give us amazing information, and they didn't just take time out of their day. They shared us with incredible information, and when you follow them on Twitter, you're going to see that stuff all the time. These are some really, really active traders. Gavin left as well, but he is definitely one of them. And you'll learn a lot. You'll get a bunch of ideas to start and maybe do your research, but these are people you must be following. Quick shout out to the Green Raccoon Bullish Rippers. I personally run that account. Check them out. Me and Wolf will be live again tomorrow with the street. I don't know exactly what time. I think it's 3 p.m. tomorrow, and then we have the sister stream to this Spaces on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So be on the lookout for those. Thank you everyone for coming in. I really appreciate it. And one more time, make sure you check out and follow all our speakers, including Wolf Financial. If you enjoy Spaces, which clearly you do, you're in here, that is someone you must be following.
Appreciate that, Evan. Okay, so real quick, just for the week, and also real quick weekend recap. I hope that everyone saw some of the pictures and stuff that was going on from FinTwit conference this weekend. Ben and Richard were both down there with myself. It was amazing. We have 200 people in person from Twitter, hosted and led by Jonah Lupton at the JW Marriott and the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando. Every single person that you asked that was there said it was one of the best weekends that they've had. I think it was a really great crowd. People were just like opening like open bar tabs for each other. Somebody spent like $2,000 on everybody on Friday night buying everyone drinks. Really, really friendly crowd. Shout out Trend Spider. We went out to dinner with those guys at Fogo de Chao. on Saturday. And then I think that there was just a really great atmosphere. So it's not just online. This magic can be recreated in person. Keep an eye out. I think the next one's going to be in Vegas on in early May, I believe. We're going to try to do another FinTwit conference based on the success of the last one. I think it's going to be a lot bigger. So just keep an eye out for that and for what's happening there. And then for this week, there are going to be a lot of spaces going on. I'm going to do a space tonight at 8 p.m. EST. I think, hopefully Ben, if he's able to, will tune into that. There's going to be several others, Shark of Traders, Juicy, Evan, and several others. Richard, you're always welcome. And then that's going to be technical analysis focus and also just market focus. So shout out Jack. I see him in the crowd. I don't think he's able to make it, but we'll do another one together, hopefully later this week. So that'll just be a place to come in and just keep the conversation flowing. Tomorrow, I'm going to do one at 5 p.m. EST, and that is going to be an NFT theme space. I have several big players in that industry that are going to be coming on. Going to be talking about, like I said, the project NF Tickers and a couple of other projects that are getting launched, including one from a friend of mine who used to work at Benzinga. And then on Wednesday night, I think at 7, Chad might be hosting the This Week in FinTwit. Thursday, we're going to have one at 7 as well. I might just throw something on the calendar Thursday, maybe like a power hour kind of thing, like 3 p.m. We did that last week. We had 850 people tuned in to listen. So seems like it might be a good time to just do that. And then on Friday, I'm going to do my 12 p.m. EST, the weekly howl, and then also the 4 p.m. EST with Evan, which will be kind of like you said, the sister space to this one. So obviously a ton of spaces going on this week. Shout out to Twitter Algo. I think I'm finally back in it. Things are popping off. Hit 25,000 followers this weekend, which was a beautiful thing to see. Just really ready to keep it going. Also, if you aren't already on the Wolf app, that is basically like FinTwit taken to the next level. I gave a pitch about that this weekend at FinTwit conference. I showed off a little bit of the app and kind of what we had coming. We are launching a trading platform inside of the Wolf app. So that's just wolf.financial. Links in my bio, completely free. There's no charges anywhere inside the app right now. So you can kind of come in and join and see it grow. We had several hundred people join this weekend. So there's some good conversation flowing in there. A lot of people are using it on a daily basis. It's a good place to do your social, your research, and very soon to also do your trading. If you join ASAP, you'll be one of the first that'll be able to make a trading account. Of course, we're going to also provide some incentives as well to do that. But that's going to be all for today. Really appreciate everyone who.
Can I just throw one last thing out there quickly? Just quickly.
Yeah.
We always want to be making these spaces as good as possible and always improving. So just quickly, if you guys have any feedback or any thoughts or anything you liked, anything you didn't, anyone you were a fan of and want us to bring back, just shoot me and Wolf a DM or me or Wolf a DM and just give us your thoughts on the spaces. But yeah, with that, we'll go into the wrap up. I'll give it right back to you. But I appreciate for everyone coming in. And if you're still in here, what are you doing? Make sure you follow all these amazing speakers up here.
Yeah, I think that's all for me for today. Just continuing to keep an eye on the market. It's a Tuesday, different from our typical Monday. But it seems like, there's definitely plenty of green to be found and opportunities to be found. Also, not just to follow these speakers, they're also really good in their DMs. If you have a question, right? You saw me throwing out questions to Ben and Richard and others. So you could shoot a question to their DMs. I'm sure if you word it nicely and all that, you'll probably get an answer back. So all these things are just things to keep in mind. With that being said, I'll see everybody else at 8 p.m. I'm about to put out that tweet in just a few minutes with an RSVP link for 8 p.m. Take care.